Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 4 of season 2 of DanDaDan, DanDaDan, DanDaDan. And yeah, those of you that went and saw this in theaters, you lucky ducks that got to see episodes 1 through 3 before everybody else, kudos to you. Good for you. I'm happy, but now you get to see episode 4 with the rest of us. And that's awesome though, but I cannot imagine, like I said last week, I cannot imagine being in the audience of that theater and going, oh, especially if you're anime only, and being like, oh, now I have to wait like 3 months to find out what the conclusion of that is. I cannot imagine. But anyway, I'm super excited about this episode. We've got some comments about episode 2 though that we need to address before diving into episode 4, right? So Ivan, for episode 2, says, from what I can gather, the Mongolian death worm was the cause of the parent's suicide. I agree with that. We talked in episode 2 about that. I agree. As we see at the beginning of the episode, the evil eye's suicide curse cancels the worm's suicide waves out. The kids become unaffected by the worm once they make contact with the evil eye, which is the requirement to activate the curse. So like Gigi coming in contact and being eye to eye with the evil eye, and the kid before, basically all the kids before that have looked at the evil eye, they were immune because the curse was fixated on them. The evil eye just didn't want them to die, right? Something the parents couldn't do because they couldn't see him. It was a vicious cycle. Family moves in, parents are driven to suicide by the worm, but the child is left unaffected due to the evil eye. The child is murdered via the keto family for the worm. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Maybe the worm's waves weren't visible during the first suicides because it was younger and therefore weaker, and it only started to stick very close to the area once it realized the suicides and sacrifices were a steady food source. I agree with that. I think that that's a really good explanation, because I was wondering episode 2, I'm like, why weren't the waves more visible in the beginning? But if the idea is that the worm was small and it just kept getting bigger and bigger and staying there because there's a food source, that checks out. So I'm cool with that. Moomin Komet for episode 2 says, oh, that keto family, I dislike them strongly, which agree. They are truly the root cause of all this chaos. Fear and superstition brought us to this situation. There are so many people like this in the world, and they are dangerous. Trying not to get on my soapbox. And I know I try not to get political, get on my soapbox either, right? But I do agree that a lot of times, and this has been tale as old as time, and we see this over and over again in narratives, and it has to keep getting brought up because people don't learn their lessons, is that a lot of times fear and suspicion, if you just talk, communicate, get to know the situation, figure it out from others, talk to the people that you're afraid of, a lot of times you'll find out there was really no reason for that fear. And I do appreciate Gigi kind of saying, oh, the evil eye isn't really initially as evil as Turbo Granny was saying. The evil eye was this really unfortunate situation where this kid was murdered for a very unfair reason and was around and present and intermingled with this horrible cycle that the keto family and the Mongolian death worm caused. The unfortunate part is that while Gigi is correct, Turbo Granny is kind of also correct in that, yes, that started out that way, but this evil eye has twisted and warped over time, and its own hatred has seeped in and corrupted that once more pure and innocent presence. So it's really unfortunate. I don't know how we're going to go around it. I don't know how we're ending this, honestly. I thought I knew, but I don't. Now that the keto family is alive and they might have to work with Momo, I don't know how we're ending this episode or this arc, if we are even ending this episode or this arc in the same time frame. I don't know. But finally, Alexandra Q says, I agree. I think it wasn't fair. I think that it wasn't until after this evil eye saw the keto family burying this child alive that he snapped and became, well, the evil eye and an evil spirit. Much like we see with acrobatic Silky just wandering around aimlessly after her daughter is ripped away and she loses her life until she sees Ira and has something else to focus her energy in, and it twists her last desires into something darker. I really like that. I like the idea that we've gone from this innocent presence that's the victim of a horrendous, horrible, malicious tragedy, that over time they get fixated on this new aspect of that tragedy and it warps them and they become something darker and more twisted. Absolutely agree. Momo immediately stopping and trusting Gigi once he tells her the evil eye is not like that is such a cool detail. It seems she's learned that yokai can be different after seeing Silky's backstory last season. I love how kind she is and that she trusts people so much. Yeah, I feel like Gigi can be gullible a little bit, and his trusting can get taken advantage of, which it does in this. But I also like that Momo, has learned from Silky and Ira and is like, okay, well, I was like Momo. I was like, if we just trust Gigi like we trusted Ira and Silky, this will all work out the same way. And it doesn't seem to be that way. So, although, to be fair, Silky was a yokai that was freshly formed and has only been around for so long, whereas the evil eye has been around for centuries and centuries and centuries potentially. So there is a difference there, which I think is really fascinating going into this episode. But yeah, like I said, I've really appreciated the comments. So thank you all so much for sharing your opinions and thoughts without spoiling in these episodes. But gonna be honest, I don't know. I don't know if Momo and Okarun and Turbo Granny are at the bottom of this whole thing, stuck in honey glue. And I'm like, what do we do about that? How are they getting out? Is Momo going to have to go down and rescue them? Or is Gigi going to escape? Is Momo and the Keto family going to get to Gigi? If they get revenge on the Keto family and the evil eye destroys them, will he, suddenly have fulfilled his purpose and then let Gigi use his powers like Turbo Granny? Because essentially, once Turbo Granny had, was dissolved on the train, but all those spirits of the girls were kind of released essentially, then Turbo Granny just stuck around because she was stuck in the vessel and Okarun was using her powers. Now, if something like that happens with Gigi, I don't know. But I'm really excited to see what we find out this episode. So, I guess it's time we need to get started with this episode. Now, I'm going to be honest, it's kind of cool. When I first pulled this episode up, it's right after it came out. So, the streaming service hadn't updated like the title or anything like that. The title's been updated, but I'm not going to look into it until we get the actual episode. But I thought that was interesting. I was like, And luckily there was no description because I am going into this completely blind. So, with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, for commenting. Let's find out, shall we? We're going to start DanDaDan episode 4 of season 2, aka episode 16. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And I'll see you all on the other side. I feel like Jack Nicholson in the meme where he's like, and it just gets closer and closer. What an amazing episode! I didn't see this coming. So I did not anticipate the priest having a role other than being in that one scene back in episode 1. Did not see that coming. I did not see Manjaro showing back up, our Mantis Man, aka Kappa, whatever, showing back up. Didn't imagine Chiquita was going to be here either with things to do and an entire freaking song to sing. Didn't see the grandma showing up and being the priest's master, which means she's been in the area before. My mind is blown. I predicted nothing of this episode. Even my predictions were wrong. Like, the Keto family did not help Momo. They did not team up with her. No, we don't know exactly what's happened with the Keto family. We do know that Gigi was trying to attack them, but we're going to talk about that. I keep calling him Gigi. It's the evil eye. I guess these people are used to, just evacuating because they're just getting out of town and leaving, but they're all just kind of like, okay, I guess we'll go. They're acting pretty damn nonchalant for an evacuation with a giant volcano erupting in the background, so I guess they thought maybe the Keto family would protect them or do something. I don't know. I was a little surprised by the fact that they seemed to not be too concerned. But whatever, maybe they thought the Keto family was going to fix it and then they'd just be able to come back like, oh, we got to leave? Oh, they're going to fix it and we have to come back. What? So I thought this was interesting, and I could have brought Whiteboard Coon out for this, but essentially, I love the idea that Momo comes to the logical conclusion of why this keeps happening and what the deal is, but the reality is that the Keto family has fed the people of this village a lie a self-serving lie for how many centuries rather than admit the scientific and logical correct conclusion. They've just spouted off a bunch of bullshit, and these people in this village has believed them because it made it easier for them to commit these crimes. And we surely have seen nothing similar to this in the real world ever. I was like, oh, so she's like, because the keto woman's like, because we keep offering the sacrifices, the great serpent lord protected this land from the volcano, which now it makes sense. Now that Momo pointed out, it's like, no, that's not what happened. It's like, no, the volcano erupting, Momo's like, wait a second. But now the serpent lord's passed, and because of you, the volcano's erupting. And it says, a dragon rising to heaven will cast a rainbow. And that will signal the wrath of the mountain that will engulf the village. It's like the legend said. It's just like the legend says that's been passed down in this village. So she recalls what the priest, Manjaro, that's him, that's his name, Manjaro told her about the village, about the legend of the village, is that when the dragon rises to the heavens above a rainbow, which when I heard rainbow, I immediately thought of the earrings that the evil eye has, because the evil eye has the earrings that are rainbows. And I was like, oh, does that have something to do with the evil eye being part of this prophecy or whatever? But no, the fact of the matter was, the dragon, I mean, you can interpret the dragon as the Tsuchino or the Mongolian death worm or whatever, but the rainbow, the dragon is actually the spout. She's like, how are you going to take responsibility for all this? And she's like, you all are a bunch of bitches. Earthworms can't die to the sun, so why is the legend of a dragon rising to the heavens? And she's like, no, this 17-year-old figured it out in 10 minutes. And y'all have been spreading this bullshit lie for how many centuries? She's like, the legend isn't about a serpent. The dragon rising to heaven is a fountain. The fountain was the sign that the volcano was going to erupt. She's like, the fountain all those years and years and years ago was the sign, and the volcano erupted, which volcanoes can erupt more than once. And she's like, the volcano was going to erupt no matter if we killed the Mongolian death worm or not, because the fountain shot up earlier in episode 1. She's like, that was the sign. It just, happened after that, hours and hours after that, but it was going to happen anyway, whether I killed this Mongolian death worm or not. That was what it was. She's like, you all have just been feeding this village a bunch of bullshit. The people in the past knew about it. That's why they left that behind as a legend. But its interpretation got warped somewhere along the way. And that somewhere along the way is the keto family. And then we go back to what Manjaro said. People who are robbed of logical thinking due to fear can believe in and even execute human sacrifices. When we abandon all critical thinking because we're afraid of the what ifs or whatever, then it allows us to commit atrocities. Because if we're willing to abandon critical thinking because we're afraid, we are also willing to commit atrocities because we're afraid as well. And God, that didn't hit me as much as it probably should back in episode 1. But now that we've done everything with the keto family and learned about the evil eye's origins, it hits absolutely hard. And it's like, damn, that happens so often in our own world where people will get caught up in these lies. And because they're afraid, they will believe the most random shit that has no backing at all. But because they're like, well, but what if it's not true? I see it every day. And it's so frustrating. It's like if people just thought a little bit more and did a little more time and research like Momo's done, then it wouldn't be like this. But so we don't repeat such sins, I will take the time and tell visitors of this tale. Yeah. And so she's like, I don't want to fight with you, keto family. I'm not taking responsibility for any of this. She's like, human sacrifices are stupid. I'm going to use this Mongolian death worm to try to put out the volcano's fires. I love it. It did look like a giant turd for the record. It did. But I love Momo in action. Again, can we give her props? Can we give Momo props for being smart enough to figure out that this was all stupid, and for being smart enough to figure out I can use the death worm slime. I can basically, it's like she's like cleaning out a pipe, right? She's like, I'm going to attach it to the fountain, use the water to jet through it, and push the slime out. And then I'm going to use the slime to douse out the fires and be like a flame retardant. it's so good. It's so good. It like tingles your brain in the best way. I just freaking love Momo getting to do this. The animation in this episode, chef's kiss. When she like slides around the corner and her feet like go out from under her. Whenever that happens in an anime, I'm just like, it's so good. It's like brain tingling good. It just feels great. Animation was stellar. And it was just so smart. And then they're like, we're not going to let anyone insult the great serpent lord. The Keto family, I don't know what we're going to end up doing with the Keto family. I really don't. Because I feel like some of them might have been taken out by the evil eye, but then the grandma showed up, Psycho showed up, or Psycha. I'm going to have to go back and see if it's Psycho or Psycha. She shows up, but I'm like, what is going to be their end goal? I guess we could leave them there, but we also don't want them to do more human sacrifices. Maybe. Also, if their eyes were glowing in previous episodes, if their eyes were glowing and if that power, for example, was tied to the Mongolian death worm and they've just been able to live because of them doing these sacrifices, since the Mongolian death worm is gone, will they just die out as normal? I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work. But I love the water main. Check. I love Momo more and more. I love Momo more in this second season than I did in the first. And Okaroon I've loved since the beginning. Like my love for Okaroon stays strong. But my appreciation for Gigi like went up in episode 3 and then, or in episode 2. And then this entire season, my love of Momo. Momo might be my favorite right now. I love her. She ain't perfect, but I love what she represents in terms of like trying to grow and do right and take and be smart and just, I love it. And she's like, I don't want this legend to become true. She's like, if I don't stop this and I don't stop the Keto family, everyone's going to believe the snake legend. And then, because it's one of those things where some people, it's like, she doesn't want to will the rumor into existence because then people will believe it and it will justify the sacrifices. And she's like, no, I don't want that to be the case. I want to stop it now so that the people can be righted and we can just put this all to rest. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. So yeah, the water spray is the slime. I love it. Get past the OP. Magma is just terrifying. And honestly, the lava isn't the concern. It's the fires started by it. And as someone whose friend is a firefighter and like puts out fires out in the western part of the country, they're like, yeah, it's a little more harder than it looks to just put out a giant forest fire. So, but I love it. Yeah. So Momo was doing great. Everything was going fine until the Keto family started to become bitches. They're like, we'll make you a human sacrifice to quell the Lord Volcano's wrath. And she's like, wait, you changed your god? You just changed up what you were doing? You were quelling the serpent's wrath and now it's the volcano? Just pointing out how stupid these people are, how hypocritical they are, and just how people like that you should not believe or take stock in, or that type of mentality or thinking is dangerous and wrong and harmful to people. So, and they're like, shut up, moron. The problem is Momo is out of gas. Momo's psychic powers can only go so far. And I appreciate Momo having like a limit to what she can do. So she's not completely OP, but did not think of Manjaro joining this. Did not think he was ever going to be in this series again. I thought he was a one-off weird character. Should have known better. Characters with unique designs. They're never one-offs. I was just like, oh, that's cool. He was a fun little gag. No, he was one of Saika's like tutors, like one of her students that she tutored. And him coming in here, he's such an amiable guy. What a nice guy. I love it. He's like, I didn't think you're the master's grandchild. The priest who wants to become a bootuber. I love that he has like, what does he have? 1, 2, 3, he has like 5 unibrows. Someone commented back in episode 1, the unibrow number increased as he got more stressed. So maybe he's just stressed here. I love him in this. I love him almost like, hello. He's like, hey there. He's like, a week ago, my master told me you were going to come. I love that Saika's like, yeah, those youngins are headed your way. So I don't know, watch over them. Typical OP mentor behavior, as one knows. He's like, that's what she told me. Again, the humor in this series is so dry and wonderful. I love it so much. And this episode, like, puts it on full force. Like, just how laissez-faire he is. He's just like, I don't know. She said you were coming. Some weirdo girl that likes Tsuchinokos. And it turns out to be you. And then the Keto woman's like, I didn't know you were in cahoots with that bitch. Like, again, these loud hicks Awful. So everything's going fine. Manjiro's going to help her. And then as they're trying to put out the fire, the evil eye shows up. Now, you would think the evil eye, it makes sense why the evil eye is not helping them. You would think it'd be nice if the evil eye was like, well, the Keto family wants, but here's the thing. The Keto family isn't trying necessarily to put out the fires. They're just trying to sacrifice Momo. The evil eye wants humanity to die anyway. So him helping her put out the fires doesn't make sense. He wants to have the fires erupt so that the humanity is destroyed. He wants to get rid of Momo and the others and the Keto family. I was hoping that there'd be more of the evil eye fighting the Keto family, but we don't get that much. Although the animation in this fight is so good. Manjiro is pretty reliable and pretty damn efficient, and I want more of him in this series. I want Manjiro to become a regular. Manjiro seems like the normal straight guy that's just like, hey, I'm here to be a bootuber and help when I can. Like, he just seems like a rock solid kind of just everyman that seems like him and Okarun might get along good. I don't know. Maybe him and Momo be friends. I don't know. He just seems like a great guy. I want to see more of him in this show. But damn, the animation of the fight with the evil eye and all them is just really good. And again, Momo, just like Okarun, is telling Evil Eye, hey, how about we quit using Gigi's body like this because you're going to kill Gigi because his body can't withstand everything that you're doing to it. And then she's like, where's Okarun? And she asks him what happened with him. And he's like, I'm going to talk about what I want. And she's like, oh, good, you're an asshole too. Damn it. So, and then of course the Keto family is blaming all of them. And Momo's like, I don't have time for this. We need to rescue Okarun. We need to save the people. What are we going to do? And again, everything looks like it's all going to go down the tubes. That stupid human ball gets in the way. But before Momo gets attacked, in comes the Kappa. I love it. And Momo's like, why are you here? Where's your son? The entrance of all entrances. There have been times when mentor figures have shown up in anime and it's badass. And you think of, I imagine that this scene of the grandma showing up on top of Taro is the end of a chapter of the manga. You know it's the end of a chapter. You know it's the end of the chapter. Either the moment that Saika and Taro show up is the end of the chapter, or the moment that the Kappa shows up is the end of the chapter. One of the two. But the way that she enters, like, it's that very shonen trope of when the OP mentor figure shows up, especially at the beginning of the series, when their OP-ness can be on display, they show up in this grandiose fashion. And it's like the end of a chapter, just build up all the hype. I imagine that's what happened here. But man, so then the ship having this song, the ship singing this song, descending from the heavens, we are the children of the stars. This song just kept going. They just let it play and they let Chiquita sing this whole song and it was adorable. And so Momo was like, what the fudge? And says, embracing all us, go to the end of the universe. And there's Saika on top of Taro. And she said, install an elevator next time. Instead of having to ride on Taro, is there some kind of, I don't want to use the word feminist messaging because I feel like people overuse the word feminist or they misuse the word feminist at times, and I don't want to be one of those people, but is there some kind of representation of the grandma arriving, standing atop a face-down, submissive-seeming Taro? I feel like there's some kind of symbolism there, but I'm not exactly sure what it is. I feel like it's some kind of symbolism, right? But, and he's like, I'm floating, it's scary. Let's go Psycho. There we go, Psycho. Let's go Taro. I love it. And then she says, you're a man, quit whining. Again, I feel like there's something there. I feel like, interesting. Now, I wonder if the grandmother, I feel like the grandmother in some ways represents some kind of older notions of masculine expectations because she's like, you're a man, quit whining. But in the same vein, we see modern and progressive, more, open and acknowledged acceptances of masculinity, where Okarun and Gigi are both able to be vulnerable while still portraying masculinity. So I feel like at times the grandmother kind of retreats back to a very dated version of like, you're a man, don't whine, don't cry. When in reality, we've seen Okarun and Gigi do both and still portray just being what is perceived by society as being masculine. So there's talk there. There's things you can break down with that. He's like, hurry up and get me down. And Mom was just like, what is this? What? But why? Oh my God. That entrance of the grandma on top of Taro is so badass and epic. I freaking love it. And she's like, you all had to call me to come take care of the dirty work. So then the song just keeps going, saying, let's all look up at the stars. See, now we've all become friends. It's so bonkers. It's so bonkers. Fly away all the way beyond the sky. And I even love that Gigi and the Evil Eye's like, what the fudge? I love that. Our shooting star carries our wishes. Oh my God. I love it. And then she's like, Manjaro. And he's like, hey, what's up? God. And she's like, Taro, charge on my command. Let's go, Kappa. What does she tell Manjaro? She says the Tokami Imitame, which when she said that, I was like, is that a move? Is that some kind of combo? It's a sealing technique. And she has Manjaro like start it while it was giving me. And she has like her dominatrix suit on underneath the sweater and the varsity jersey. Love. I felt like her relationship with Manjaro reminds me a little bit of a character with Natsume from Natsume's Book of Friends, where the older exorcist is like, hey, do the thing. I'll do the work while you get the summons ready. And Natsume's like, okay. So that's all I can say without spoiling, but it was giving me those vibes. God, this was so good. Her fight against the Evil Eye along with the Kappa was great. Do not underestimate a gilf with a baseball bat. Clearly, woman, I'm all about badass female characters, and she just did so good. And her whole point, I love her throwing the cigarette. The whole point was to distract him in time for Manjaro to show up. And for Taro running, if anybody can give the Evil Eye and Gigi's body a run for his money in terms of speed, it would be Okarun or Taro. But Taro ain't got nothing to lose because he's a freaking, high school corpse, like body dummy. And then, man, I felt bad at first because I was like, oh, Gigi as the Evil Eye, like busted through Taro. But then the moment you see the talismans, I was like, she's going to seal him up in the body. Now, what about Gigi and the Evil Eye? Here's my theory of what's going to happen next episode. I feel like just like we put Turbo Granny into the Lucky Cat, I'm wondering if we're going to put the Evil Eye into Taro's body for now and calm the Evil Eye down and then say, okay, we're going to bust Gigi out, but you're going to need to cool it, Evil Eye, and you can't possess him like this anymore. I don't know how that's going to work. I feel like they're going to get Gigi separated from the Evil Eye in the next episode. I don't know exactly how that's going to go about, but I'm hoping it's a situation that it would be cool. We've had our Venn diagram of how Okarun, Momo, Ira, and Gigi all kind of connect to each other. Although it's really more how Gigi, Okarun, and Ira connect to each other because they're the ones possessed by yokai at this point. I think it would be kind of cool if Gigi related to Okarun and being like, we both manifest spiritual energy and forms that are based off of a yokai that possessed us at one point. And then you have Ira, who willingly allowed herself to connect with the yokai, so it's a little different. I don't know how they're going to do that next episode, but I'm going to be really excited to see that happen. But damn. And then he got caught. I love that Grandma told Taro to put his organs in a grocery bag. The humor and bonkersness of this show is amazing. Like, I feel like this show is hilarious. And it's so weird, but the weirdness makes sense. It's so hard to explain. If I couldn't explain this to an outside audience, there's no way I could explain the premise of this episode to somebody that hadn't watched the first season and were watching this series week to week with all of us. I couldn't explain it because I'd be like, yeah, so the grandma shows up on the back of this high school body dummy that's used for a science, anatomy, and physiology class. And then they fight a young man possessed by an evil spirit and trap the boy and the evil spirit inside the body of the high school dummy. But stay with me. And then there's a Mongolian death worm, but we killed it and used its body as a fire hose to stop a volcano. If you tried to explain the premise of this episode with no context, people would think you're insane and would be like, what show are you watching? But it's so good. In the context of the show, it makes sense and it works. And I'm like, what? So I love that Chiquita uses the death worm and the ship as like a crane game way to like do it. Oh my God. And the way Chiquita is singing about like a flying star carrying a big corpse. It's so stupid. I love it. I love it. So meanwhile, the grandma gets on to Manjaro saying you need to be kind and to the stray model too. And he's like, I didn't hear anything about this. And then she's like, where are Four Eyes and the cat? And Miss Momo isn't around. Look, the romantic in me and the Momo and Okarun shipper is 1,000 times on board with this episode. I love this episode so much. I love that Momo immediately went to Okarun to save him. And then I hadn't even thought of the volcano magma getting in the hole. I hadn't even thought of that. And then I was like, shit, well, what do we do? How did they get out? I thought they were going to like have gotten out of the glue somehow, the mucus, and were like off to the side and it was fine. But no, they used the mucus as like a cocoon, sort of like the mosquito trapped in honey in Jurassic Park, and it was able to like encase itself and protect itself from magma and elsewhere. And so they basically just did that with the slime and mucus. But her being willing to go into the magma to save him, the romance, y'all. The romance. And I like Chiquita was like, hey, let's not get drastic. Let's do the same critical thinking that you did earlier in this episode and use my tractor beam to draw out the magma with him in it. Good job, Chiquita. Good job. You've been in this series 1 episode so far and you're doing great, kid. And I love Okarun like putting his hands around Turbo Granny. That's so cute. That's so cute. I love that. And using her luck to his advantage. But man, one thing I also love is, well, 2 things. 1, Momo lifting her arms out to like reach for him, being like, hey, you want me to come rescue you? And I did. So here you go. I love that. And the fact that he's like, I didn't lose faith in you. I believed you'd come and protect me. Amazing. But my favorite part is they take a moment where we do the whole thing, the gag, where he has his foot stuck and then he trips and he falls into Momo. And at first, they do the very much shonen-y gag of, oh, I fell into a woman's bosom. Although her bosom looks like mine. So it's like, you fell into it, now what? And he kind of gets embarrassed, and he's like, oh, that wasn't on purpose. And then she's the one that comes back and gives him the hug. And she's like, hey, it's okay. She's like, I'm sorry. It's like, I'm the one who should be sorry. I love that. I love that her hands around the back of them form a heart. That's super cute. Now, the only thing that could have made this better is, she's like, I couldn't do anything. The only thing that would have made it better is that Okarun like has a freak out goon moment. And I'm like, dude, drop all that. Drop all that. Instead of trying to make a joke out of it, put your arms around her, give her a hug, and acknowledge that you both are happy each other survived, and make it a cute moment. We don't need the gag. We don't need the joke. You can make it a cutesy moment. And she's like, you're alive. Ah, what a great episode. What a great episode. And we still haven't resolved everything. We still have to get the Evil Eye and Gigi disconnected or figure out how that's going to work. We still have that. We don't know about the Keto family. We're assuming they're gone. I mean, by the time the grandma shows up, Gigi as the Evil Eye had kind of taken them out. But, I mean, the last time we really saw them was around 11 minutes into the episode when Momo saves the Keto woman and she saves the priest and wraps him up. Is that the last time we saw them? I love he does the Daiset Suzan drop, like the drop kick. That was great. And then, yeah, she lets the Keto woman go and we don't see her after that. Like, is that the last time we see them? Trying to think, because the priest gets knocked into the tree, and then he goes to knock into her, and that's when the Kappa shows up. Now, arguably, the Keto family could have been like, this alien showed up. Nope, we're not going to do that. Maybe they'll, like, worship the spaceship, thinking it's their new god, you know, because they're a bunch of ignorant hicks. Maybe. Maybe they'll worship Chiquita and think that he's their god. Who knows? But they disappear after the Kappa shows up, so... And then once the grandma shows up, then it's all over. So... I don't know, man. I don't know what's going to happen with the Keto family. They conveniently disappeared. So are we going to get them next episode, or are they going to be one of those villains that, like, will get you another day and fight you some other time sort of scenario? I don't know. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But what a great episode. This one was amazing. And I am super excited and curious to hear your thoughts down below about it. So... Anyway, the wait for the week is going to be so hard. I hate waiting. I hate the wait. But the only good side is that it's always worth it. At least it has been for this season. So anyway, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back very soon with more DanDaDan.